Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm pleasantly surprised to be bringing you this review for the new Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, Optimus Primal. If you guys know me, you know I love my Beast Wars, so getting the Boss Monkey here finally in box is really exciting. So the very day after I went into Walmart and found a Cyclonus, I went back to the same Walmart and this guy was there. So I'm very happy. I've been waiting on a nice proper Optimus Primal update for quite some time. The most recent figure we got was the Power of the Prime's Optimal Optimus, but that was a different form of Primal and was trying to do a lot of things at once, so none of his forms were perfect, right? They all had to be kind of compromised for each other. This feels like an actual proper update to, the beloved Beast Wars leader. So, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Optimus's packaging. Then we'll open it up. We'll see his fate card, which, at this point, I'm just assuming is either a Black Arachne or Dinobot, because that just seems to be my luck. We'll see his instructions, and then we'll see Optimus himself in both his Gorilla and Robot modes. Be doing several group shots and comparisons with other versions of the toy. We're going to do a bit of a height comparison with the concurrently released Cyclonus, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Optimus comes in your standard Voyager packaging for Kingdom. You get this little bitty window right here so you can see him. And one of my biggest fears with Optimus is that he is just not enough toy to warrant a $30 purchase. And I touched on this in Cyclonus' review, but now that I have Optimus, we can really look at them proper and compare them. And again, it's a conscientious topic. Every time it comes up online, I know. But I want to be honest, right? I'm not here to bash things because it's popular or defend them because they're popular. I want to give you my honest takes. So we'll see how this ends up coming out. But I can tell you just by what I can see in the box, boy, that looks tiny. It's like, I think it's the size of like the 10th anniversary Optimus Primal. But we'll see. Perhaps I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I want to feel good about this purchase. So the rest of the front here, if you turn this, we get our artwork of Optimus, and boy, is that gorgeous, huh? That looks so good. I gotta say the lighting's a little weird, because aside from the glow around him, he's very darkly shaded, more like he's in a jungle or something. And then you have this bright background with lava everywhere, and I don't know. I mean, it's cool overall. I definitely like it, but it seems like maybe they like kind of copied and pasted him from like a different picture or just something without a background into this, and then just put like a glow around him. I don't know. Could be completely wrong on that. I do like it, and I love how dynamic the background is. All the stuff going on, the lava shooting up, little kind of explosions, eruptions. Looks like even there's like an eruption going on around the Ark there, which is neat. I also wonder how they're going to reconcile the Ark and the Nemesis being in completely different places in this timeline. Because that kind of like negates a lot of events from Beast Wars happening, so very curious. Very curious. Go ahead and turn this. Oh yeah, by the way, he's number 8, so he comes right before Cyclonus. All right, and we got our renders, which, as far as I can tell, look very much like the finished product. Though once we get out of the box, we'll see. I think maybe the feet are a different color. So he takes 22 steps to transform between Beast and Robot modes, which is significantly less than Cyclonus. Again, leading me to think that $30 is probably too much for this, because Primal never had a very complex transformation, right? He just kind of like twists some things around and drop his monkey head down. That's about it. But we'll see. We'll see. See, there's some sort of like claw or handprint on the back of this. That's neat. I don't know if that's on all of them or not, but I just noticed that. Little Maximal symbol here. Really awesome side panel. I love the side panel art that they do. So far for all 3 chapters of War for Cybertron, these have just been really cool to look at. I think this might be my favorite one. Siege was a little muddy looking, and Earthrise was like overly dark to where you couldn't make out a lot. Plus, you can tell they were using a lot of Siege designs in the Earthrise packaging. This here is awesome looking. I love the Megatron, Galvatron cross-section here. You got Unicron just kind of coming in the background like, hey guys, forget about me. I'm here to get you. Then on the top of this, you get your little piece of rock with like cave drawing, which looks really cool. And those weird little glyphs again. Every time I see this, I think they're saying like, hey, subscribe to our Instagram or something. That's what it looks like. So, yeah, the packaging looks great. Now we're going to open this up and see what's inside. Alright, look guys, we finally get a new one. So this is Optimus Prime. Not Black Arachnia, not Dinobot, Optimus Prime. So things are already looking up. Alright, let's go ahead. Can you see that real well? It's a neat little shot of him heroically standing up on something or other. Let's go ahead and pull this back. Oh no, Optimus. So, this shows what appears to be a very dead Optimus Prime floating through space. Look at that, and there's some bodies behind him. I'm gonna get a closer look at this here. Alright, I can't make out who that is back there. It's really, really tiny, hard to see. Whoever this is like some kind of blue and red. I'm not sure. You got like some panels here, I don't know what they are. But anyway, the text right here says, dies in battle. Huh. Okay, well, we know that's definitely a potential fate for Optimus, because that's what typically happens in the movie, though never seen an instance where he dies in space, at least not this Optimus Prime. So, very interesting. I wonder what that's about. Okay, now we have his instructions. Got his name here, number, Maximal symbol, render on the front. Yeah, I didn't notice this before, but there's like something to this backdrop too. It's hard to make out, some kind of symbols or something. See that? It's like a little bit darker gray in some places. First time I'm noticing that. All right, so here you get the how-to on the weapons. This is actually useful this time. Shows you where to store the swords, how to pop out his little arm-mounted guns, and how to open his hands up so you can make him hold the swords. Pretty cool. And then you get the transformation from robot to beast mode, and then like a second transformation, or third mode, from beast mode to standing up beast mode. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd consider that a transformation. Like, you're just posing him upright, more or less, but okay, I guess. Kind of wish there was like more here. They don't talk about storing his swords in his beast mode, though. They go in the same place, just right there on his back. Okay, and now we get our first look at Optimus in his gorilla mode. And you can see I have him in his standing configuration, just to kind of get him upright, give you a good look at everything. And most of him looks pretty good. You kind of get this weird butt flap thing going on. Some robot kibble showing, and then the worst kibble right here is the robot feet folding up against his heels there. That's actually pretty standard. That's how the original was too, so, As far as his swords, they're right here, and you can see they're painted a much deeper blue on the handle than in the renders. Much more accurate too, so I like that. Speaking of that blue, the feet, like I thought they were, they are painted dark blue instead of gray or silver, so that's a shame, because that's not accurate. And I imagine that was a molding thing. So he stores swords on his back like this if you'd like to. It looks pretty good. You can even wield these swords if you want him to, because his gorilla hands are just his robot hands. And they just slide in. You don't even have to open the hands really to get him to hold these, because he's got a partial 5mm port just molded into the hand. Whoopsie. So I'll go in there. Maybe. There we go. Okay. So he can wield these, which is nice. As far as articulation in this mode, he gets universal shoulders, which is cool. Gets bicep swivel, bending elbows, wrist swivel, fingers open and close. It's a not waist swivel. Yeah, that's right. So this thing, I mean, you can lift it up and make the waist swivel, but then it kind of breaks the illusion. So don't think it's an intentional waist swivel. The knees can bend, right? He actually has a like mini thigh swivel here. What become his robot shins actually do turn and pivot, which is cool. Got ankle tilt, which is nice. The toes can bend. Not sure what you do with bending toes. Maybe make them stand on a branch or something. And the cool part's probably the head, right? Because the head can turn side to side. It can lift up and down, which is great. Oddly enough, he's got no ears. Now, Primal's animation model for his gorilla mode also lacked ears. But it's kind of weird here because, just like the other Beast Wars toys in Kingdom, he is going for that realistic alt mode look, which is why his face looks quite different from how the show looks. So you'd think they just mold some ears in there, but they didn't. So that's odd. Speaking of his face, kind of got this little grumpy monkey look on his face. And his eyes are brown, and you can barely see it, but there are little black pupils painted on there. So, yeah, quite detailed. Go ahead, take the swords away for now. Set them aside. And I'm just gonna kind of put him into his more quadrupedal beast mode. So you lift the little butt flap up, bring these down, and you're gonna kind of redo the double hinge assembly here, where you bring this hinge up, but fold this one in. And what you're trying to do is reveal this little tab, which is going to plug into the slot right here behind the robot kneecaps. So you just push it in like that. Same thing here. Just wriggle it up there. Bring the little butt flap back down. And then put these back in. So, I mean, it really isn't a transformation so much as repositioning. Close his fists if they're not already closed. Get him in just kind of that standard gorilla knuckle walking position. And here you go. This is more standard beast mode. And it looks quite good. I mean, all the robot bits that were shown before are still showing. But he looks good overall. In fact, get a little more showing here now because you're rotating the arms in. So the robot biceps are starting to show a bit. Oh well. Obviously, pretty much all the same articulation in his standing form applies here. And I will say, you know, for just a toy gorilla that has to turn into a robot, he looks quite good. He is very poseable, which is awesome. And, you know, the sculpted detail for the fur and everything is really nice. The face is very well done. Really nailed that. The chest looks good, too. It's got that kind of wrinkled look to it, which is pretty nice. Got some kind of abs going on. His modesty's protected by some fur there. And yeah, it looks really good. I do like it. Okay, and now we have a beast mode comparison with the original Beast Wars Optimus Primal. More specifically in this case, it was the 10th anniversary retool that gave him a much more show-accurate deco, new gorilla face, and you'll see here in a few, a new robot face. Then you get the 10th Anniversary Deluxe, which was an all-new mold, which also doubled as Cybertron Optimus Prime. And he's a, you know, much more techno-organic looking gorilla, but is meant to still be in the same design vein as the regular Optimus Primal form, like not transmetal or anything. So you can see right off the bat, this guy without his hoverboard is about the same size as our new one. Whereas this toy is much bigger. It was an Ultra class toy, which was at the time the largest size class in Beast Wars. And they all very much do their own thing. Obviously, these two on the end are meant to actually represent the same form of Optimus, whereas this guy is kind of a reimagining of that form. So you can see, this is just way, way bigger than our Kingdom toy. The trade-off is that it's a good deal less posable. It doesn't have, like, the wrist swivel or anything. The head is stationary, too, because of the way he transforms. Because the original Primal, like, the gorilla head becomes his chest panel. We'll, I don't want to spoil too much, but we'll see how that differs there. But the legs still move and everything, so, you know, a little more brickish, but still very solid. You don't see a bunch of, like, hollowness or anything. Maybe the robot feet, that's about it. So, yep. It's interesting to see how that design's evolved over the years. Okay, now it's time for transformation. So you take your Gorilla Optimus, remove any swords or whatever if they're on. And let's go ahead, just kind of lift his head up out of the way. Straighten his legs out. Like so. Flatten these out. I'm gonna pull the robot feet down. You'll hear them kind of pop into place, like so. If you have his gorilla legs kind of turned, make sure you straighten that out. He's got his own thigh swivel for robot mode. Let's go ahead and lift this little flap of fur up. It will lift, it's just plugged in pretty tightly there. See a little hole, and that little nub goes in that hole there. Just kind of lift all that up. Rotate him at the waist, 180. Then want to pull this back section out, and you're gonna get some resistance. You might feel like you're even gonna break it a little bit, but it will give. Pull it out like so. You're gonna slide this up, rotate the gorilla head, push it down, bring this around. And push that back in like so. Go ahead, flip this chest panel while you have the back open. Then you're gonna push all this back in. Actually, hold on. You can do that, but we want to deploy his cannons. Could just leave them in though if you don't want them deployed. Something to think about. Get those little cannons out. Now push everything in. All right. Okay, now you're taking this thing, and this rotates 180 degrees. And you fold it up against his back. And there's a little slot there this tabs into to hold it nice and steady. Now you keep that up, out of the way. And the last thing you really want to do, flip these little shoulder pads up. They got a pretty healthy click in them too, so don't be afraid to break it. Or maybe you should be afraid. Wish it wasn't that hard to do, right? Okay, put those down. Here you go. This is your Optimus Primal. And, I mean, he looks fantastic. He looks almost like he was pulled right out of the TV show. Uses a bit more white in places that the show would have silver, but, you know, that's okay. And we do still have the issue of the blue feet. I don't know why the feet are blue. His posability is fantastic. Head's on a ball joint, moves all around. These can go up and down. If you do want to tuck him away, you have to open his back up, though, so just be mindful of that. Arms work the same way as they do for gorilla mode. You know, shoulders are universal, bicep swivel, elbow, fingers, and wrists. Waist can actually articulate now, and it goes a full 360. You got universal hips, very high thigh swivel, which looks nice. You got kind of double bend knees, though I think you're only supposed to use like this lower hinge to bend them. You still have this, but I wouldn't use it. It looks weird. And then you get the feet that do have a good amount of ankle tilt. Kind of held in place by this little connector piece here, but they wanted to keep him, you know, screen and toy accurate, so they kept those pieces on there. So yeah, I mean, quite solid. He does have a bit of a big old gaping hole right here that I'm not fond of. So he's not perfect. See, people are saying, oh, he's $30 because he doesn't have gaps. Well, there's a big one. So there. All right. Now we want to give him his swords. All right. Let's go ahead and plug those into his hands again. Just like so. In there. All right. So now he's ready to do battle. And I will say the guy looks amazing. He really does. This is a very fantastic representation of the character. It is very screen accurate, which is, you know, what they go for with these new toys. Now we also need to show off his little forearm blaster things. So let's go ahead and put his swords away for now, so we can also talk about the storage. So plug him on. You want to plug him on where like this curved edge is pointing outward. Gives more clearance on his backside there. So go ahead and get that on there. This one, before I put it on his back, I'm actually going to use it to help push out these blasters because they're kind of a pain to do it by hand. So I'm just going to use the butt of this to push this all the way out. Same thing here. You're supposed to push in the inner forearm. All the way out. Just like that. All right. This can go away. Right on his back. Okay, so you get these. Come out, little double barrel blasters that he has from the show, and they articulate a little bit. They're on this little hinge here, so they can point out so he's not like shooting himself in the knuckles, which is nice. And it's a really neat little bonus that's just kind of tucked away. I like it. I like the fact that they included these. I don't know if I would have preferred these over the mace weapon. I mean, I guess they're going for show accuracy, right? So, didn't have the mace weapon in the show. Still wish they would have included it. But hey, that is what we have a certain fossilizer for. So, this is the head of the fossilizer Paleotrex. And you flip its little battle helmet down, it becomes Primal's skull mace. So look at that. Not quite as cool as the real thing. Not a flail, doesn't have like a chain or a string, but you do get this, and it looks really good with him, I'm not gonna lie. It's nice and bone colored. I dig it. I think this works very, very well for him. Here we can see Optimus facing off against his wave mate Cyclonus, who is also a Voyager class toy, and just towers over this dude. Now, this is where I first kind of start making my case for why I don't think this is really a Voyager toy. There's a very obvious height difference here. And, you know, height's not everything. Sometimes a toy is just, you know, it's bulkier and stuff. And while Optimus may be a bit thicker in some places, like, you know, kind of right here at the torso, Cyclonus is not scrawny, right? He's got very meaty legs. I mean, he is quite imposing looking. They both have roughly the same exact levels of articulation in their robot modes. And then the other thing people point out is gaps, right? Oh, well, you know, small toys can be $30 because they're fuller, right? They don't have a bunch of hollow spaces. This Cyclonus toy, the only place you can really say he has a gap is right here above the knees, and those have to exist for his transformation because these double hinges fold up into those holes. So, like, anywhere else, I mean, maybe a tiny, tiny little bit of space there, but that's not nearly as glaring as that, you know? So, you know, not a really great point either. I mean, it really feels like you're getting a lot more toy for the same price with Cyclonus. Again, this is by no means saying that Optimus is a bad toy. I know a lot of people are going to watch this, so they're like, oh, he's bashing it, he hates it. Like, no, I actually really, really love this. I just think we're kind of getting swindled when it comes to the price and the whole price point scheme that they have when it comes to, you know, how they put product out on the shelves. Here's another group shot with one of the War for Cybertron toys that is known for being tall amongst the deluxes, and this is Siege Ironhide. And I want to show you guys a height comparison here where you can see that Optimus has just a hair of height over Ironhide. So he is taller than, you know, what's considered like the tallest deluxe, if you're going purely by, you know, head height anyway. So he has him by a little bit. In Ironhide, he is known also for being quite hollow to make up for that. Or at least that's the justification for being hollow anyway. I mean, still pretty sure you could fill these things out and make a hefty profit off of $20, but yeah, that's just me. So that shows that he is going to exceed what they're currently giving us at the deluxe price point in most ways. So it's not all doom and gloom. I'm not saying he falls into what we now know as a deluxe for deluxe pricing, but we're going to look at some more toys and see how he really doesn't stack up to those. Here's a look at Optimus with some of his former incarnations again. We have the Beast Wars and 10th Anniversary toys returning, and then we also get the Vehicle Mode Optimus Primal from Power of the Primes, who, though not turning into a gorilla, has a robot mode that is based directly on, you know, his original gorilla robot mode. So just to give you an idea of how they all compare to each other, you can see that our new Primal is a tiny bit taller, maybe like a hair taller than this Power of the Primes inner robot dude. There's that. You compare him to this guy, he's got a little more height on him, maybe like half an inch or so. So that might make you think like, aha, see, there it is. He's bigger than that one, he's more complex. But then we forget about this big old contraption that comes with this. Remember, this was a deluxe, sold for deluxe price. This giant surfboard thing that has all sorts of spring-loaded mechanisms in it. And when you plug this in, It's got moving parts, got a firing missile. So it really starts to even things out. And when you talk about like the total amount of plastic, I mean, this is heavier than this. There's just more here, right? So now you're talking, all right, well, more plastic doesn't mean everything. This guy's got better joints and better engineering. Okay, but you have to keep in mind the fact that, yes, his engineering is better because these toys are 15 years apart. Like, our ability to manufacture and engineer these things has greatly improved, and the cost of doing so has drastically been reduced because of innovations in automation. We have the whole CAD file thing now where they can make a 3D image of these things that translates directly into how they're built. I mean, it's a whole new ballgame. And it is infinitely easier to design a toy like this now than it would have been 15 years ago, 25 years ago. So I can't really buy that argument. Like, yes, of course the engineering's gotten better. Technology's gotten better. But, I mean, think about how much a modern smartphone costs compared to the monumental amount of money that same smartphone, if they could even invent that 25 years ago, would have cost you. I mean, this thing's like a supercomputer compared to something in 1996, right? So I don't really buy the better engineering thing either. At least not when you're talking from time period to time period. So imagine if they had taken the resources spent into building this thing right here, this surfboard thing, got rid of that, right? Don't have to worry about the cost of producing this, and then just put all those resources back into adding articulation to this guy, maybe making him bigger, maybe giving him like 2 little swords of his own. I mean, and it'd still be $20, right? So again, I'm not buying it there. And then we get to the last one, the OG, Big Boss Monkey himself, Beast Wars Optimus Primal. These guys are very similar in design. They both come up looking very close to each other. Biggest differences in their appearance is he does have this like hump over here that's like the back of the Gorilla Mode's head. And he's kind of got these little flaps that come off of there that are kind of the butt. But they hit all the same keynotes. Now, the new toy definitely has more articulation, especially when it comes to the beast mode. But then you look at everything that this toy has as a total package. He also has the 2 swords. He gets functioning missile launchers, right? They're not just like little blue pieces of plastic. I mean, these are actually spring-loaded missile launchers with 2 missiles here, 2 missiles in reserve. His swords can actually hide away inside of his Gorilla Mode. They plug in here, and then this like flips down over it. So you don't just have swords just sticking up on his back and looking silly. His Gorilla feet actually fold away into, these more compact little kind of heel spurs. And he's got the awesome skull mace, which, if I can get this open, right? And this thing is like multiple parts. You got the mace part, you got the handle, you got this rope that's kind of like the chain. I mean, he comes loaded with stuff. Plus, he's got all sorts of internal mechanisms, right? He's got the whole like chest thumping thing that I can't activate right now. But you know what I'm talking about. There you go. Right? Like all sorts of gears and springs. Like a lot went into making this toy. So he's huge. He's loaded with gimmicks that, if they so chose, could have just been recycled into, more articulation or something. Now, how much do you think this guy cost in 1996? Just a guess. The answer is $20. An Ultra Class toy in 1996 cost $20. If you adjust for inflation from 96 to 2020, about 65%, he comes out to $33 and I think 17 cents. So, barely more than what this guy costs. So if they had nixed the mechanisms, nixed the firing missiles and the springs and all that, and recycled those resources into higher articulation, right? Give him some wrist swivel, ankle tilt, whatever. You would have a guy that's massive compared to the new toy, can do like everything the new toy can do for like $3 more. It's not even roughly equivalent. Plus, like I said, the cost of actually engineering these things has gone down tremendously. This toy right here, if he, nixed the gimmicks and had articulation, this would be a leader class. They'd be asking $50 for this. So, it's just, I'm really not convinced that we're getting a fair shake now. I think that Hasbro is utilizing both the character appeal, because it's, Optimus Primal, right? One of the big ones, the leader of the Maximals, one of the ones everyone's going to want. We're mixing that along with the notion that he's, just a lot more premium than a deluxe. And again, he probably goes a bit past what, Hasbro would call a deluxe now. Just by a bit. I think they utilize this notion that, like, if you build him kind of solid looking and give him a couple little extra gimmicks, that somehow makes this thing worth 50% more. And I know this comes off as such a negative review. I totally understand that. But I'm trying to make a point about this. Is though I love this figure and it's amazing, there comes a point when you have to really think, are we being taken advantage of? Is Hasbro telling us we're getting a Voyager and just through like power suggestion hoping we don't realize it's really just a really nice deluxe? All right, one last little group shot I want to do for fun. This is Optimus along with that Power of the Prime's Optimal Optimus, as these are the two most recent takes on the character in a main line. I didn't address the Masterpiece toy during this review because I don't own that one, though from what I've seen of it, it looks fantastic and probably still reigns as the best figure of Primal, because you're working with a much higher budget than a Voyager. But I never hold a Masterpiece against a mainline figure because it's not a fair comparison. I also wanted to show this to talk about something. I don't know if Hasbro intends to keep doing Beast Wars characters after Kingdom, or if they intend to do the other forms of those characters, like the Transmetal forms and things like that. However, if they are looking to go that route, they honestly already have a very good Optimal Optimus right here, or at least the base of one. Because this guy, he scales very well with this Optimus, and he's got really great show proportions and all that. All they really need to do is take this, axe the whole inner robot gimmick, and replace all that complicated mess with just a permanently attached turret piece like the original toy has. Right, get the plastic molding colors right, all that. Don't make these detachable anymore because that's silly. In fact, they should have a way for these to kind of slide in and go away like he does in the show, and then you can lift his cockpit up. So that would really cover the inaccuracy there. Then you can just toss him a cheap orange plastic rifle like the original toy had. You definitely want to make it to where he can actually hold it in his closed hand, because these little 5mm holes in his thumbs look silly when he's holding a weapon. So probably want like a square peg or something to go in his closed hand like that. And they don't have to do this, but they really should. Include, like, put little actual hinged panels on here with the wheels so he can do his all-terrain vehicle mode. And then you got all 4 modes covered. I mean, I don't know how that would balance out budget-wise. I mean, you're going to save a lot of budget for getting rid of this, very articulated thing that becomes a backpack for him. But if they can make it work and sell this guy for, leader class again, I think they can really do something really good with this and get a proper Optimal Optimus for our new Optimus Primal. But that's just me kind of daydreaming and thinking about stuff. So, back to the reason we're all here. My final thoughts on this guy. I know a lot of people, I can like feel the dislikes being clicked right now, because a lot of people, they don't like when you have anything negative to say about a toy. But I always want to be honest with you guys. And again, the toy itself is amazing. I absolutely love it. Easily the best rendition of this form we've ever seen, at least outside of Masterpiece. My contention is that what he goes for is too much. I mean, I won't even say that he stretches the price point. He just blows it out of the water completely. And I think that is the function of the price point system itself, right? It's very rigid. They're spaced pretty far apart, right? You got $10 toys, $20 toys, $30 toys, $50 toys, and there's nothing in between. I mean, sure, they'll have exclusives and like multi-packs, but as far as the stuff that they throw on shelves all the time, and I understand why that is. I get why that benefits the toy maker and the stores that have to carry it. But perhaps it's time to consider maybe a one more price point, like an in-between. Something between a deluxe, between a Voyager, And that way you can have figures like this that aren't overpriced, or you can have something like Prime Breakdown that ended up not being released until recently because it fell pretty much right there in the middle, and Hasbro's thinking at the time is like, well, we'll just not release it then. So I think that's a problem we're seeing quite a bit. The other figure that's being brought up a lot in this debate is the Studio Series Hot Rod that just came out. I don't have that one yet, but he is, going to be roughly the same size as this dude. I think even a little smaller. So I'll be talking on it with him a little too. Probably not to this length. And, who knows, maybe Hot Rod will surprise me, and whatever he actually pulls off might be more worth that $30. We'll have to see. So, yes. I want to say, just like I did with Cyclonus, get this toy, it's amazing, and it is amazing. I don't know if I can 100% be like, go spend $30 on this toy, because, if you had told me 10 years ago that this was $30, I would have laughed. $30 used to buy you a lot more toy than this. Heck, like we already covered, in 96, $20 bought you a lot more toy than this. So, I don't know what to say. He's way too much for what he is. I can tell you he will not scale well with your classic Beast Wars toys because, Transmetal Rat Trap is almost as tall as he is, so it's a tough call. Obviously, if you have the means, you're not hurting for money, it's not going to kill you to buy this thing. But you may feel a little cheated for what you get in the long run. That is, of course, only my very long-winded opinion of this toy. I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone's going to hate this review. I guarantee it's going to be the most disliked review I ever make. But I do really want to hear your guys' opinions on this. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of disagreement with what I've said, and that's okay. I want to hear it. I always appreciate the input, even more critical input. You won't hurt my feelings. I'm a big boy. And yeah, let's have a conversation around this. I hope the comment section of this is very full, because I think it's something we need to talk about as collectors and fans. Now, if you're one of the 2 people that like this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, or maybe not quite like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for this in-depth look at the new Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Optimus Primal. And with all that said, I will see you next time.